All right, there's a lot of other fun news out there to dissect in our Friday Whip, and here to help us run through all those stories is Chris Bedford, executive editor of the upcoming Common Sense magazine, and Kira Davis, host of Just Listen to Yourself podcast and author of Drawing Lines. Chris, all right, I want to start with Senator John Fetterman. Now, last night, we laid out exactly why the man is unfit to serve, yet Democrats, they obviously just don't care. And this despite the fact that the New York Times put out what I thought was a devastating piece that came out months too late, saying that the auditory processing issues that Fetterman has stemming from his stroke early last year often get worse when he's in a stressful or unfamiliar situation. When it's bad, Mr. Fetterman has described it as trying to make out the muffled voice of the teacher in the Peanuts cartoon, whose words could never be deciphered. And his chief of staff told the New York Times, what you're supposed to do to recover from a stroke is do as little as possible. Well, instead, Fetterman was forced to do as much as possible. He had to get back to the campaign trail. Chris, this is so disturbing on so many levels. It seems to lack any sense of humanity. Forget the politically craven nature of all this, but the man should be recuperating at home, and they pushed him forward, didn't they?
They did push him forward, just like they pushed the president forward, because it's about politics. I found that New York Times piece interesting, not simply for the fact that it was only really published after he was safely in 6 years in office, but that they explicitly said that, well, it doesn't matter how many duties he can attend to. All he's meant to do is be a 51st vote for Joe Biden, so that will be fine. And also during that New York Times piece, even when they admitted all of these problems, they attacked people like you who are asking questions about his health and whether or not he was okay. They were saying asking questions about his health is still an attack, even while his staff is clearly lying about what's going on.
Kira, for the New York Times to print this now, obviously months after the election, how does that really serve the people of Pennsylvania well? Because ultimately, they need to have as much information as possible to make a decision in any election, correct?
I think we've seen, Laura, over the last 2 years and really over the last 6 to 8 years that the media doesn't really care about whether or not the people are served. The media cares about whether or not their interests are served. And watching Senator Fetterman fall asleep in the chamber, knowing how ill he is and has been, it's just grossly symbolic of what's been going on, isn't it, with this entire administration? It's just grossly symbolic of an administration that is asleep at the wheel, that is so sleepy, it's paying so little attention, so ill, if you will, that we let a Chinese spy balloon float across the entirety of the United States last week without lifting a finger. So it is really sad, but it's just another sign that this administration has never really been interested in doing the business of the people. They're doing their own business, and unfortunately, we don't get to be clued in on what exactly that is most of the time.
Well, great point. And Chris, I need to remind everyone how the media reacted when Fetterman won in November.
Fetterman as a nominee at some point for president. I know there's some variables, obviously. Just a few. But I just,
Chris, do these people have a shred of credibility left at this point?
No, all that Fetterman is to them is an important pawn. And of course, he breaks the archetype of what a politician typically is. He's got a working class vibe, despite not really actually living that lifestyle at all. And he's got a macho vibe, which is certainly counter to a lot of the other Democratic politicians out there. So they want to love him, but he's just not there, and they've lied to get him there.
All right, now something fun, Kira. There's a big debate online about having kids at weddings. Now, British TV personality Olivia Attwood, she went viral this week after declaring this.
Kids at wedding thing for me is absolutely unacceptable.
I agree!
Unacceptable.
I'm not even people like...
Even if I had my own children, I wouldn't invite them. And if you imagine when you're doing the vows and you hear like, ah! Jurassic Park.
Kira, your reaction?
It is becoming a trend among young people. I've been reading more and more posts online about young people having child-free weddings. That's not the era I was married in. But I actually don't have a problem with it. I kind of agree with her. My children are older now, but when they were younger, I think I would have been really happy to go to a child-free wedding just to have an excuse. Oh, sorry, can't bring my kids. But I do believe that it is up to the couple. A wedding is a nice family affair. It would be nice to have all of your family and friends there, but I respect the decision of people who don't want to have kids at their wedding. I know better than most people. Like, kids can be annoying.
You're married, getting married soon, Chris, so I have to come back to you on this. Kids at a wedding or no kids at a wedding? Or is this just people don't like kids anymore?
Well,
I mean, what's going on?
I think there's a lot of people not liking kids anymore because kids do take a lot of sacrifice to take your time from the first time you wake up in the morning until basically when you go to bed, and usually a few times in the middle of the night. My 7-year-old stepson will be at our wedding, as will all other people's kids, but I understand that they can be a lot. But a wedding properly understood isn't just a night of clubbing. It's not just a night out at the bars. It's about love, and it's about bringing people together. It's something that will really resonate with those children for a long time. But there also maybe should be some boundaries. So we're getting some nannies for our wedding, for a room right next door to where we'll be having the reception, for having pizza and movies for the kids later at night. So parents can dance because, as we said, kids do take a lot of attention.
All right, panel, thank you. Have a great weekend.